Thousands of years ago, in a shining castle, a small, silver-haired boy ran into the courtyard and tugged on the tails of his father's robe.
"Father,"
he said,
"my name is Hoaqin. You may not remember, but I am the proud son of Ari who inherited your blood, father. I rushed here as soon as I heard that you had come to the floating castle. My dream is to become an even greater swordsman than you someday, father."
His father, taking him by the hand, showed him the magnificent blade of Ari, which countless sons and servants had sacrificed themselves to forge. Then, he leaned in close and whispered in his ear, "Son, commit genocide." Thus was born one of the Tower's greatest evils. He acquired demonic knowledge and committed the ultimate sin, Vor. No, but he was a bad dude. He quickly climbed the tower and became a ranker, then set his mind on obtaining limitless power through the consumption of souls. Knowing he couldn't simply just kill for eternity, he hid himself in the outer tower and founded a kingdom as its god emperor. Manipulating its people, he created a powerful spell to steal their souls upon death, taking their power for his own. Switching sides and empowering enemies time and time again, White waged perpetual war for centuries, hoping to amass enough power to one day face his father. Yet even after becoming a notorious slayer and one of the absolute strongest beings in the tower, it took only a single fight for White to lose all of his power, forcing him to flee inside the Hell Train and start from scratch. Who would ever have guessed that only after his fall would he become one of Baum's most challenging opponents, and one of Tower of God's scariest monsters? And who would have guessed again that after losing by the skin of his teeth, he would continue to face L after L and become so trivialized that even after regaining his former power, he'd be begging Aguero to piss his pants and licking his lips at the prospect of new Kun Baum fan fiction. Regulars and regulettes, today we will chronicle how SIU built White up as such a scary villain and an ideological opponent to Baum, only to shit all over him at every subsequent turn and try his absolute hardest to make us forget he was ever a threat to begin with. Even before we meet White, he's hyped up as a force to be reckoned with. Even after the workshop battle in Train City, Hajin Sung himself tells Baum and his party that they're straight up not ready to handle this yet. Huariyun feels danger in their encounter, and they're absolutely right. Hoaqin, White's core, is absolutely untouchable. Not only is he tremendously powerful for a regular on the train, but his charisma allows him to poison minds with fear and the promise of power. He used it to lure in his siblings, and then used it again to burden Boro, Daniel, and the others with 600 years worth of torment and regret. Even without pure strength, White has caused real, irreparable damage to these people on a level we've only ever seen before with Han Sung, putting the Hell in Hell Train. And when Daniel revives him, he immediately gets to work taking his enemies back to Browntown. While SIU always made things a little bit funny with White's frantic nature and big personality despite looking like a little kid, he immediately portrays him as a powerful and even holy presence. There's a faint white glow around him to give off this otherworldly and ancient impression, and he quickly proves himself as dangerous as Boro says when he snuffs out Yeon's flame and impales Wang Nan in the blink of an eye. Immediately after, he threatens Wang Nan with Vor and sadistically toys with him. Make no mistake, Hoaqin is a monster beyond redemption. There are three main factors that make Hoaqin such a scary force early on. The first is, obviously, his power. Even as a regular, he's leagues stronger than anyone else on the train, including Baum himself. It's very telling that it took a literal miracle of the final clone giving Baum a new power for him to win. Before getting this power up, every fight Baum has with him is a total gamble, and everyone else has no choice but to run on sight. The fact that everyone has to run away from him and play keep away with his clones adds tension to the arc. It's already hard enough to beat Hoaqin to his missing siblings, but protecting them from him is a whole different story. The idea of him consuming the souls of his siblings makes him even scarier from this perspective, as we see the amount of damage he can take on without even so much as a scratch on him after each battle. After every confrontation, he's able to get closer to perfection. Each soul he consumes makes him larger and more threatening, able to intimidate others even more. And the smile with which he relishes each bite of juicy soul goodness creates a primal fear that he'll do the same to other beloved characters, such as Rachel and Yura. He has an effect on people, able to make them small in his presence, and this is the second factor, his indomitable will. Daniel, who was so confident and energetic before, mellows out immediately after waking him, and starts to waver in his conviction over time, coming to regret his decisions. Boro, Sachi, and Akka all collectively shit their pants at his name, and are tied to the train for centuries looking for ways to make up for what happened with him. Regulars feared him then, and they fear him now. Once he steps out in the wooden horse station, he immediately begins manipulating other regulars for his own sadistic pleasure with his killing game, and we see how insidious he is in a flashback showing how he took control of the train and made Rowan's life a living hell. And in a much more literal sense, SIU often positions Hoaqin above his competitors the same way editors make Tom Cruise look taller in his movies. It's honestly really cool how SIU structures these scenes to make him look more imposing. While his power adds tension, it's this presence that adds the stakes. Knowing how he's able to manipulate and torment people so effectively, we understand why it's so important to stop him. By presenting him as this towering opponent with a big sword, bigger explosive powers, and an even bigger sense of corruption in the people he meets, he feels unbeatable to us. Every day he's alive on the train is a day he's closer to escaping and rebuilding his own tyrannical kingdom. The final factor that really makes Hoaqin scary, and such a good antagonist here, is his belief system, and how easy it is for Bomb to react to it. It's the opposite of what Bomb himself wants at this time. During his revolution, the Blue Demon asked Bomb to take his power, to step over others and rule over them and crush all who stand above him. Bomb rejected this demon, and asserted he had a different power in him that would not change or corrupt him, and called it his true power. It was an all-consuming sun, ironically conquering all the other powers inside him, but hey, we can only add so many layers to the metaphor, so fuck it, it's fine. And Bomb called it his true power. Hoaqin, however, took the hand of the demon he met in the night. He understood the necessity of sacrifice, and now lives as a being sustained by it, sucking the blood out of anyone he comes across. He is the side of Bomb that Bomb is afraid of, a glutton for souls and power whose only goal is to acquire more and more in pursuit of an impossible peak. He scares and angers Bomb because if he wins, it will mean that Bomb really does need to take the demon's hand and sacrifice his ideals, and possibly his friends. No one else in the story save Rachel herself has ever managed to make Bomb so angry. Unfortunately, after Bomb finally defeats him at the end of the dollar show, Hoaqin slowly begins to lose his footing. Rachel and Yura trap him into subservience using Emily, and even though he thinks about pulling one over on them and going with Prince and Miss Sang, he ultimately relents and spends the next couple of arcs following whatever lead he can get on his clone. That isn't to say he's already become a joke, though. He's still Rachel's scariest weapon, and the mark he leaves on Miss Sang is the perfect example of how scary you can be no matter how much extra eyeliner you put on. But as Rachel's willing teammate and later Karika's partner, it's clear that Bomb's victory humiliated him. His impulsive nature is still present, but it's now tempered and he's more willing to listen to others. While this may make him smarter, the unpredictability is gone, and it's clear there's no chance of him coming back as a primary antagonist. That is, until the very end of the Floor of Death. There are few moments in Tower of God more dreadful or exciting than Hoaqin's devouring of the Floor of Death's souls. After an arc that went nothing but smoothly for Bomb and his allies, ending in a clean finish against Hell Joe, Hoaqin's victory was exactly the twist we needed to bring a sense of danger back into the Floor of Death. Just when everything wraps up, Hoaqin turns the entire situation on its head, killing every single resident and stealing their power for himself. It's in these moments where we're reminded of just how dangerous he really is. Even with Yuri, Urek, and Garam present, and a curse to keep him trapped, there was no guarantee Hoaqin wouldn't somehow be able to slip away. If he were to somehow escape here, he'd become one of the tower's most notorious villains once again, motivating Bomb, Urek, and others to pursue him and take him down, again as Bomb climbed the tower. He'd have destroyed an entire floor. But no, said SIU. That would give Bomb a solid motivation to climb the tower, to rescue the souls and bring them back, earning the thorn piece they've kept so secret. Instead, our Lord and Savior chose to introduce a new level to the hierarchy, Gustang. What he gave us instead was a scene that absolutely kills any chance Hoaqin has of becoming a legitimate threat in the long term, but while neutering him may be disappointing, it's still an amazing scene between him and Gustang that we can take a closer look at. In a story where Aguero gets resurrected more than Jesus, and Rack is able to defeat as a hard-sponsored regular from a power-up gained by eating rocks, it's hard to imagine that Tower of God once focused on the cruelty and despair of limitations in the tower. The idea that no matter how hard you train or what power you're blessed with, there will always be someone who can destroy your entire world in seconds. Gustang and the barrier's complete domination of Hoaqin brings back this theme in full force, reminding him of the impossibility of his desire. It harkens back to his greatest humiliation and his first major defeat. After spending centuries accumulating power and committing unforgivable atrocities, just one bad fight cost him everything. And after hiding for centuries more, scrounging for souls, he finally regained an incredible amount of power, only to have it ripped away again in minutes. He writhes and struggles against the curse of the souls as hard as he can, but in the end, his goal is farther than ever. Everything he built was worthless. He will never surpass his father. It's a depressing end to the arc of the Slayer White, but in the wake of billions of tormented souls, it is the cruel fate that he deserves. From here, White could have become anything. Running away with his sword between his legs, it was a mystery what he'd do next, or if he'd even still have a part to play. Would he realize the futility of his actions and pursue a new life, forever discouraged? Would he become more determined to crush Bomb and eat his soul, or even seek to use the thorn himself? And as his narrative potential was impossible to ignore, SIU, in his infinite wisdom, said, "Lo, I shall make him a clown." It's easy to forget that White's downward spiral truly began long before he was even introduced in the story, and that he even lost a Boro. But it doesn't dull the pain of seeing White continuously trivialized from here on out. From doing virtually nothing in the Hidden Floor, losing to Miseng, Juan, Andrasi, and even needing his final clone to willingly re-merge with him, poor White might just be the most humiliated being in the entire tower. It's almost funny how he leaves the Hell Train with such confidence, only to get a couple of fodder kills in before running out of energy and getting bonked away to horny jail. Now, I want to take a second here and touch on the issue of the clone, since I think she was a really big missed opportunity at this point. Alright, look. Me simple man. Woman good. Hot woman great. I love the clone. But the way SIU handled White's completion was a bad choice for both of their characters. The clone willingly appearing to White and merging with him was an easy way out for White, and a plot event to give Bomb's side more power coming out of the train. But it's too easy. Sure, it continues the theme of White being a complete eunuch, but it completely takes away the chance for White to feel dangerous as a consequence. He's only fully powered because the clone, whose very existence is founded off the hatred of White, said, "Fuck it, this kid I've only known for a couple of weeks is more important than my deepest desire to avenge my collective slaughter." Sure, it's nice to grow beyond revenge, but the journey to that point wasn't there at all. We barely saw the clone at all between point A and point B here. It cheapens her character and it makes White even more of a loser, even though he definitely hit his low point in the Floor of Death. A choice I would have far preferred in this interlude is for Hoaqin to strike a darker deal with White. Knowing how deeply the clone hated White, it would have made a lot more sense for her to instead help White corner and devour her, not reach a reconciliation. This way, SIU could have re-established White as a danger, recalling how he devoured Prince and Vicente. He would also have stayed faithful to the clone's motives and even added moral ambiguity to Hoaqin's devotion as a guide. It's a simple change that doesn't affect the ultimate outcome, but adds so much more substance to White and Hoaqin and keeps us guessing whether or not he can really be trusted off the train. The choice SIU makes here transforms White from an antagonistic rival to Bomb to a pawn on his side of the chessboard. The clone walking in on him trying to hide the shame that he couldn't even find his last clone after months of licking Rachel's feet is the true beginning of White's subservience. Every story he's told about his kingdom and his kill count are undermined by constant debuffs and contrivances. He becomes the great uncle at family reunions who tells everyone he was a Marine despite failing basic training. It becomes clear that SIU never really figured out how to write White after his focal arc. While requiring him to team up with Bomb is a great idea, the rescaling of his power each arc, combined with this constant comparison to his prime, trivializes how dangerous he can be, and SIU's insistence on only giving him worthy opponents makes us forget he was ever capable of committing genocide in the first place. Despite his maniacal laughter and implacable swagger, the difficulty he has in living up to his legend makes him feel safer than ever. Will we really remember Prime White as the man who was able to go toe-to-toe with Caliban, something nobody else came close to? Or will we remember him as the guy who outed himself as a Fujoshi a couple chapters later, just waiting for the chance to devour the latest Kumbam fic? Or maybe the guy who could have killed Caliban but didn't because he looked sad. Even he was waiting to fight in the nest until Aguero and Shibizu, two regulars, laid out the entire groundwork for him to regain his power. Why would they wet their trousers, White? Did anyone wet their trousers when the clone merged with you too? Oh wait, no, they didn't. No one did. I won't go so far as to say that SIU destroyed White's character. As far as I'm concerned, he really is the same person. The issue comes with how SIU has utilized him after the Floor of Death. The end of that arc denied White his agency, and afterwards, SIU has chosen to focus on how much of his power he's regained, conveniently writing him with a very limited energy supply to make sure he can combat strong rankers, but never actually dominate anyone like the stories would imply, since that'd be too easy. Whatever fight he has coming up next, he just has enough energy to last for a while. The Slayer King has truly become a servant, and while he does try to egg on Hatsu and Bomb to tap into the darker sides of their power, neither of them show any signs of giving in. Even as Bomb uses the power of the souls, he uses that power to save rather than kill. While that in itself is a lovely callback to their differences in Dollar Show, it further cements how ineffective White is as an antagonist now. He's a fighting force used to combat other high rankers just like Evankel and Cha, except he also throws out constant reminders that he's bad and we should be careful and scared of him because surely, someday, he'll show them. Don't come to school tomorrow, Hatsu. I think if SIU really wanted to show White as the powerhouse he's supposed to be, especially in his prime form, the answer really wasn't to have him take on powerful opponents like Caliban in one-on-ones who he can't easily beat. This just makes it look like SIU is still scaling his power to fit the situation, and it can come off as a bit contrived, such as in the last station when he unexpectedly runs out of energy the first time. A much better display would have been to have him wipe out an army of average rankers in a single attack. For one of the tower's most powerful swordsmen, this shouldn't be unbelievable, and it would leave a much larger impression of the man who's supposed to destroy a great family. Without his legendary massacres, we're just left with a powerful swordsman. There are a couple of different directions SIU can take White going forward, but all of them keep him on the path to the throne his father. The only difference in the route he can take is the extent to which he works with Bomb in the future. It would definitely be best for White to go his own way after this arc, as keeping him in reserve like SIU did in the cage wouldn't give him much to work with. If we're really unlucky, he might even become the new Boro. On one hand, it's clear that White's time in the spotlight is done. As Bomb makes more enemies in the Empire, FUG will necessarily become a bigger ally to him, and he won't easily be able to go after other Slayers since most of them will stop wanting to fight him anyway. We may only see him again in bigger fights against the enemy, the army, or maybe SIU will even save him until a large fight against Ari Han. In this route, he'll remain an aloof ally to Bomb and fulfill his role as Slayer. He's destined to lose without Bomb's help, but if White only goes after Imperial forces from this point on, it wouldn't be hard for SIU to portray him as a lesser evil and keep Bomb's distaste from getting in the way of their relationship. I don't think White will win if he fights Han, but I can definitely see him coming to acknowledge the necessity of Bomb being alive, and helping Bomb clear a path to other family heads or Zahard in a large battle later on. As Han supported Zahard, he himself can support Bomb and topple their empire, which may satisfy his desire to surpass his father in some way. The other route sees Hoaqin overcome by his gluttony, compelled to defeat Han at any cost. He'll continue to prey on anyone he sees, and he'll always desire Bomb's soul. In this dark future, White will do something unforgivable and make good on his threats that he won't be so easily controlled. In a masterful stroke of the pen from SIU, White may actually be self-aware and understood he was manipulated and trivialized, taking the opportunity to show everyone, even us, how stupid we all were to think that he could be tamed. Will he steal Jin Sung or Caliban's soul and flee? No, but that'd be something, wouldn't it? Well, it might not fit within the larger narrative very well to reignite the White subplot, and distract Bomb from confronting Zahard. Dealing with him later on in the story opens up a lot of opportunities to expand on White's faction, and also discover where Bomb's limits lie. Can he really work with White after all he's done? Can he tolerate White's sacrifices, or will he draw the line? It's our best chance to see Boro and Sachi return in any meaningful capacity, and finally get their closure from 600 years ago. More importantly, if White isn't defeated, we never may see Vicente again. Personally, I'd love to see another climactic confrontation with White again, and finally see him regain that presence, but I can't deny how hard it would be to really make that fit in with the plot. With so much FUG support behind Bomb now, and with so many enemies in the Empire, how would we really find the time to confront White and potentially lose a powerful ally in the process? I'm not sure if SIU could really make that make sense. At the end of the day, I don't really know what SIU intends to do with White. He put a lot of work into building a rivalry with Bomb and Hoaqin, and gave a great show of their incompatibility. Hoaqin was perhaps the most villainous regular we've encountered, but ever since his defeat, he's been treated increasingly as a joke, and it's become easier to forget about the people he tortured and killed. Now, as he fights with Bomb instead of against him, his dependence on the team's help threatens to further humiliate him no matter how much he objects and says he's still dangerous. If SIU really wants to bring back the darker side of him, then I couldn't be more excited, but he'll need to commit to some darker deeds if we're supposed to keep believing he's the same Slayer. Otherwise, White is in danger of becoming another high-ranker ally, existing only to carry bomb up the tower. Will SIU again show us the folly of sacrifice and the desire to find a better way? Or will we simply have to accept and live with the fact that it was sacrifice and the relentless pursuit of strength that made the tower what it is today? Thank you guys so much for watching. I really hope you enjoyed this analysis. If there's anything that you want to add on, anything you disagree with or agree with, go ahead and leave a comment. I read every single one of them. I always enjoy seeing what you guys have to say and responding to them a lot of the time. If you liked the video, absolutely smash that like button, smash that subscribe button if you want to see more Tower of God content coming to you as soon as possible. And I'm really excited to give you guys the next couple of videos. I'm going to have the 100 subscriber special out pretty soon, and I'm also going to be working on the Andrasi analysis coming out next. There's also a couple of other fun videos that I have planned as well, so look forward to all that. But yeah, I really appreciate you guys watching this again. I'd like to thank my mod bros, Psych and Bones, for making sure I didn't say anything too stupid before I posted this. So thanks to you guys for that. And of course, if you want to keep discussing Tower of God, absolutely join the Tower of God Discord, especially with the manhwa coming back in a few days, at least in its Korean version. We are going to be as active there as ever. We have over 19,000 people, many of which are on all the time, just discussing Tower of God. There's really so much discussion potential for this webtoon. Whether you like it, whether you dislike it, there is always something to say about it, and it's got to be my favorite webtoon for that alone. Just the infinite discussion potential. So look forward to my next analysis. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you guys on the next one.